Hello and welcome to Untier Talk with me, MZ, and him, Hajad.
What's up, Bruce?
Yeah, I think that just about covers it. So, it's been a bit of a week in terms of trying to fix this meta. We had a voting shift slate come out on Sunday, too late to impact Slam playoffs, but early enough to impact Snake Draft, so we were very much hoping to get some good meta fixes. Um, we banned Silvally Water, but we did not ban Boufflant or Kling Klang, which little bit of some hot topics right here. So I don't know that we need to say anything on Silvally Water really. It seemed like a pretty conclusive ban. I didn't see much pro water volley content. It was pretty dumb and just like all the other Silvallies. But oh boy, these other two Pokemon. Um, Boufflant, nobody voted ban except Jad, and I do think a lot of that is just due to nobody really being able to break this Pokemon because I still feel like it has an awful lot of potential. Um, it's scary. I haven't really seen anyone abusing toxic stuff or just AV as glue. Obviously, like choice band and sub SD are like these things that can really mess you up if you can't prep for them properly. But I think a lot of this came down to like nobody's broken Boof yet. It's still just here, and we're like we can probably wait, and then if it suddenly like starts demolishing everyone, then maybe we can do something about it. Um, that's always a
Yeah, I feel
very
like
hard call to make.
the reason why I voted ban in particular was because I could see a very similar thing to what happened with Klinklang, which we'll go into more detail later. But um, I think we had a slate with Klinklang before this slate, and I voted ban on Klinklang on that slate potentially, I think, or something similar. And um, a lot of the arguments about Klinklang at the time were I need to see it in in like in like doing damage and
I'm
being
just
really
I'm just
like
trying to find what
obviously
slate
busted.
you're talking about. We haven't had Kling Klang on a slate since we had Butterfree and Kangaskhan, and it got 0 ban votes. It hasn't been on a slate since then. And whatever you're doing to your mic, I would
Yeah, my mic
recommend not.
disconnected.
Okay, but yeah, it was not on a slate. You did not. This is the first time it's been on a
What
slate.
was the what was the Pokemon that was on the slate then? People were saying that it didn't have any evidence worth banning it. I voted ban on it anyway.
Bouffalant.
No, not Bouffalon. Before that,
Before that,
it was on the most recent slate,
uh,
not before this one.
Driftblim.
It might have been
The most
Drifblim.
recent slate didn't have a single ban vote, but the one before that, Driftblim, has only one ban vote. Yeah, that's you. That's Driftblim, yeah.
Yeah,
And that was when
yeah.
we
So it'd
that
be
was the
Drifblim.
slate that banned Thievel.
Yeah. So yeah, it'd be very similar to Drifblim then,
Nope,
where you
sorry, that
see
slate
it
banned
dominate games.
nothing. It was the slate before we banned Thievel. That slate didn't ban anything at all.
Yep. The point that I was trying to get at is that Pokemon that haven't had evidence in the past that we've banned um, are similar, I guess, to Bouffalon in that case, where I don't need to see too much in the way of evidence to believe that it's ban worthy. I think in its sets, it really limits what you can balance, and that in itself is a really big concern. Just given the state of our normal checks as a tier, Booth breaks through those pretty easily, and I don't think you need to see a Pokemon 6-0 or 5-0 teams for it to be broken. I think it can be broken in a theoretical like building perspective. Obviously, you need some evidence of it doing something. Otherwise, you could just, there's no real good point behind that theory
Yeah.
there. But yeah, for sure. Um, I was definitely more on the side of, well, what do we even have for this? Even if it does theoretically um, not do that much work, like to prepare for it, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. So I just decided to vote ban anyway.
Yeah, and that's where I was at before it dropped. I was like, we have nothing for this. It's probably going to be broken. I'm saying that quite a bit. But then I was actually like using sub SD and choice banded boof versus teams with like no normal resist or one like sort of check, and it would never do anything. And it wasn't at the point where I was just like constantly getting outplayed with the one resist or whatever. Like Boof was very consistently being pretty much nothing more than getting a trade, and that was
Mm.
it. To the point where I just like
Yeah, I think
I couldn't do anything because it kept being like you said, you need like a little something, and I could never even get it that far, and I never even really saw anyone else doing that. And the more I've played, I've had more success with just Sword Stance 3 attacks with a good bit of bulk, and even then, that's
mm,
been nice. But I think it's really only abused teams that don't really work anyway because that kind of like fat offensive stuff is too problematic for them, and they'd kind of die to
yeah,
like a throw doing the same thing. Like Boof, I think is
yeah.
really it always really trades. I don't think it's ever
Mm,
useless, and I want to see more toxic stuff. Um, it just could never
yeah.
get
See,
over that tiny threshold. Like I went back and forth. I voted. I deleted my vote, but I couldn't vote in.
yeah, my one argument I was sympathetic about with Buffalon is that the meta really, really doesn't favor balance, and Boof abuses the shit out of balance.
Yeah,
So in that respect, you can just say that the teams that Boof does really well versus don't actually exist, and therefore Boof is going to be useless. But generally, I'm not a huge fan of that like reasoning, um, just because we want balance to exist, and it's not Boof's fault that balance doesn't exist. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm sympathetic towards that side. Um, Potentially, what might end up happening is we ban a few things, um, balance becomes popular, and then Booth becomes busted,
mm-hmm.
which
I
is
think
probably the more
But
likely
I think the
outcome.
key is by the time we get to then, we'll have the tier shift. It'll be a new tier and all that. I think the fact that balance isn't really much of a thing sort of matters. But also, even versus balance, I think at worst, Bouffant becomes like a thieful Pokemon, where it either gets a lot of kills or gets the one most important kill of the game. Like, you can sack your Stunfisk and Boof won't get any other kills, but you needed that Stunfisk. Or you can lose two Pokemon to Boof. I think that's like the best case scenario for it. And that
Yeah,
still feels a
I'd say so.
bit of a way off. Um,
Yeah, I'm sympathetic towards that side at least. Like I can understand why people uh, voted on the side of do not ban this thing
mhm.
yet.
and part of
But yeah,
that,
personally, I just want to get rid of it before.
part of that is just because for balance, like there's not a ton of boof checks, but the ones that we do have, what kind of balance really is not going to fit um, any one of its various check, like one of the Gorgeists. Um,
It's Goregeist or Fizdef Throw. Those are the main ones.
Gorgeist throw. Um, Actually, I wonder how Sludge Bomb Growth Tangela, like the thing that people had for throw. I've never actually seen that versus it.
You'd lose to SD sets. You'd lose to SD set.
You
Some
would
SD
still
sets,
okay.
but
Yeah, that's fair. But even other stuff like Hitmonchan, maybe you're getting really fancy and double, but like that's very few Pokemon. But I also have not seen a balance really function without that because this tier like needs their compression so bad. Oh,
yeah,
Helmet Sandslash. Also, like
Helmet Sandslash.
we'll only trade to it, but like Boof can't kill anything else because there's
Yeah,
nothing to do about that. Um,
but you're sacrificing your spinner and rocker
no,
and stuff.
I
I
know,
don't think that's a great trade. But yeah, I get where you're coming from.
yeah. Kling is the other thing, and my God, there have been some long discussions that we've both taken part in both the council chat and the SSPU chat on the Discord. So I don't really think we should go ahead and rehash too much, especially since we're both very strongly ban and don't have an anti-ban person to actually argue against here. Um, I think the reason, so I was initially for a long time like Clank's not even remotely a problem. All through like PUPL, this was never on my radar. Even after the Evagero post for a little bit, but eventually where I ended up is I started trying to diversify my builds and build something that's not like the very fat balance that always has the Stunfisk on it, which was on every team of mine. And as soon as that happened, it became by far, not even close to anything else, the most annoying, difficult, unreliable Pokemon to check in the tier. And I personally do not feel like the anti ban arguments have sufficiently addressed the fact that even if we are capable of beating Klinklang, it's so inconsistent and so difficult to keep building with that in mind, while also keeping in mind that like all the things that beat it tend to be pretty bad in the meta. Um, I don't think they've sufficiently addressed why this isn't like so problematic for this tier that's already really struggling with how to like wall anything, that we shouldn't really just be getting it out right now. And that's sort of where I've fallen of why I've like converted to one side and not really been able to convert back. But my God, you can read
Right.
so many arguments between like the voting slate and the Discord that that's the only new stuff I really wanted to drop.
Yeah. So I've been pro pro on banning Kling Klang for a while. I think I gave the council like a quick heads up. It must have been a few weeks ago now, where I was like, "Yo, we should probably be looking at Kling Klang." I Nobody was really for it at the time, given that there wasn't that much evidence of Kling Klang really doing stuff. But in the last stages of Open and recently Snake, I think we've really seen it come alive as a Pokemon. Um, because I think what Kling Klang has that many Pokemon, very few Pokemon actually have, where it's like um, you don't have that many defensive checks, like switch-ins. You can count the switch-ins on your hand. You have like Marini, Stunfisk, and then Fizz Death Throw, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you also don't have that many offensive switch-ins. You can count like Dougie. What's the other one? Hitmonchan?
You
Dougie,
can
Hitmonchan,
also possibly reboot Flareon Heatmore,
Reboot, yeah.
some Golduck
Yeah,
sets, and Ludicolo.
right. So, um, Ludicolo aside, all of those get to it KO at +1, right? Or +1 with Giga Grind.
Pretty much, yeah. Most of them are not staying immune to hazards unless they run boots. And like when they run boots, they don't even have any kind of passive recovery. Or like most of them don't have any passive recovery because they're running boots. Is what I meant to say. A
Yeah,
lot of them are mons you want to use frequently throughout the game, and are not things you want sitting in the back waiting to beat Kling Klang. Like that's not how you play a reboot or a Heatmore. So like they're risking chip a lot. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, that's the thing that separates Kling Klang from me because I found that when I was building it, I couldn't just say, okay, I have a Stunfisk. This should be enough for Kling Klang, especially if it wasn't Rest Stunfisk. Like, it wasn't enough for Kling Klang. Or it was, um, I could run just Rest Stunfisk and justify that versus a Kling Klang. But in the sequence of like games that I play, I'd always get smoked. And oftentimes I'd find not playing the Kling Klang was and just ignoring it at the builder was highly advantageous. So it became this sort of matchup thing where do you actually want Kling Klang preparation or do you not? Another thing that I also noticed is that people were sharing a lot of replays of um, Kling Klang teams or Kling Klang struggling versus teams that it really should be beating. And a lot of the time, we were seeing teams which were like fire, water, grass, plus electric, plus some some type of ground Pokemon, like a Marowak or a Sandslash or something. Um, so basically, those types of teams cover Kling Klang over several slots. Like we're talking the fire
Yeah.
Pokemon, the water Pokemon, and the electric Pokemon all have like a good matchup. You have pressure there as well in the ground
Yeah.
type.
I think the key
Grass
is
is going to
there.
give it a free switch.
The key is there really. Those teams are good against Clink Clang, but they're not good in general. These are like
Yeah,
these are not very good teams that do the best versus Clink Clang because the way you prep for this is by using stuff that is otherwise very bad in the meta pretty much all the time. Rest Stunfisk? Oh my god, that is some abusable stuff. Rosie Bear, it brought a fat firewater grass versus Soul Gazer for this week of Snake, and that team can't really switch into rhyme. Do much about
yep,
Alolan Dugtrio. It talks Alolan Dugtrio, or really do much about people like spamming status or fast things, like giving up so much to hit certain benchmarks on how to deal with certain Pokemon. Klinklang is
yeah,
the most overbearing thing in the tier. And if you think it's ice types, I thoroughly disagree. Because not only is that like multiple different ice types you're prepping for, but our ice type checks might even arguably be fewer, but they're not shit. our Kling Clang checks kind of suck. They're so abusable. Ices also don't completely invalidate things. Um, I have no problem using Tangela in a meta with very strong ice types, but I've been trying to use Silvally Rock and Fat Mawile and things like that, and it goes so poorly because of how really invalidating Kling Klang's presence can be.
Yeah, I think with Kling Klang, the thing, I think this is a similar situation to what we had with Ninjask, where I can point to a Pokemon that Ninjask can't beat, and I could say, "Yo, look, this is Berserker back in Ninjask meta. This beats Ninjask, therefore Ninjask isn't broken." But it's a very individual, like really like simple approach to
Yeah,
say,
it
"Yo,
doesn't look at the size of the meta and its actual impacts and is this healthy or not. And I don't like to
Yeah,
ban things by pure council vote just for being unhealthy as opposed to straight up broken. But I think this is so strongly and clearly unhealthy. Plus the fact that we just like can't really run suspects right now with the just how dumb tiering in DLC land is. That Kling Klang just vaults over the edge and is so clearly there, and I just
mm-hmm.
haven't really been feeling the anti-ban arguments at all, which mostly just comes down to like we have checks, and I'm like, yeah, but is this actually good for the tier? No, I don't think so. I really don't. I don't see eye to eye with like a Kier at all on this. But the two of us voted ban as well as Termy, but it got 4 do not bans, and we're gonna need like a solid shift in public opinion or some domination in Snake for that to really change. And I don't think that's gonna happen because like this is broken and unhealthy, but not in the way that like it clearly and obviously dominates every game, just in the way that it fucks up building and makes this tier a problem. But Kling
Yeah,
Kling isn't going
it could,
nuts because you have to because like people have to over prep for it like that. So
yeah. I feel like it's very similar to Archeops in that way back in SM, where it won't do anything, but it's clearly unhealthy and restrictive.
yeah, that's not a bad example, except for the fact that like most people listening probably were not playing Archeops SM meta. Anyway, that's the vote. Uh,
Comment if you were playing Archeops SM meta. That would be nice to see actually.
that's the vote. There's Throw and Lilligant. I don't think we really need to hit that. The rest of this is just gonna
Yeah.
be tour roundups. Like there's some other random PU news, but we'll just hit the tours. We said last time PU Open finals are gonna happen. I hope it's good. Holy shit, these were bad. Um, I really so consistently overall this did not want to come out of all this being like the salty mainer who's no, all the mainers got hacks. The tour players aren't that good. Look at, I really wanted to give people any kind of credit, and I have nothing but respect for Rosebear and Dominatio and other tiers. I've known Dominatio for a long time. Rosebear is obviously your fellow Brit. My God, they had a fucking awful series here. It was really bad.
Yeah.
Game one, I don't like either of these teams. Domination is maybe okay. I like that it's being more interesting. It's definitely got some major flaws. Rosie's is just weird and always goes way too slow on their teams. I don't know why. And this game had both of them throw the game at least once in just such a weird end game. I recorded it live in the PU Discord with like TJ and Termy and Tone and Telenet and a bunch of other people whose names don't start with T. And we were all just like, "What the? How are they throwing this bad?" Like, I don't think I'm that good. I'm not like I should win open. I'm not necessarily better than anyone. Um, but you would really hope the open winners don't have like the just weirdest throws in this game. My God, I don't know what was up. Um, and in the other two games,
Yeah.
Dominatio just won freely off matchup immediately because Rosie Bear continued to have really bad teams, and Dominatio's again like somewhat flawed but interesting in bringing different things. Enough to make me like not hate it. I definitely have problems with this team. It's pretty interesting, but it didn't matter because all three games, Dominatio brought a sub Nasty Plot or Sub Sword Stance Grass type. In the first game, it did not auto win the matchup, but the second two games, it did auto win the matchup, and that was it. Leafeon just got 10 kills over the course of the last two games of finals, and completely just cleaned Rosie Bear's clock. It was so dumb. I don't get it.
Yeah, yeah. Whilst I would want to disagree with you here, I literally can't find a way to disagree.
I really wish. I really like.
Rosie's team. There's just there's a lot of problems with the teams. Like Rosie's teams always find a way to be too slow, in my opinion. And that's, I guess, it's kind of like a confidence thing where usually if your team feels slow, it usually has checks to everything in the meta, just by virtue of you using more tanky, more bulky things.
It doesn't.
But offensively, you can't apply any pressure. Like, it's so important in SS, especially current SS, to be able to apply your own pressure and your own win presence. I'd argue it's way more important to be threatening offensively rather than threatening defensively or being able to check everything. So, yeah, whilst I want to sit here and I really, really want to say, Rosie Bear could have done something, I just think his team kind of boned him, especially in 2 and 3, especially.
Yeah, I really wish. So Dominatia won Open, off two pure matchup games and massively throwing game one, like even harder than Rosie Bear. What a set! I really don't want it to be like this way. What I said about Open has even become a meme, apparently, in like tour player circles. Like Tony put in his predictions that the quote of like, you kind of have to throw Open results out the window because it was just completely dominated by luck. It was well. I don't want that to be the case. That's what we said last year too. Because last year some of like our biggest prospects just got like completely frozen out or crit out in very early rounds. Same thing happened here.
Yeah.
And normally at some point I'm like, you gotta minimize luck and just be better. But I've seen how stupid these losses were. I can't even say that. This was just a silly Open.
I would have won, but I got activity, so yeah, that's how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get a bottle of water. Give me a sec.
Yeah. And I really wish I could say week 1 of Snake was better.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah, I wish I could say week 1 of Snake was better. But it really did not end up being better. PU has definitely had a drought of good games for a while between like the end of PPL Open and now this. There's some interesting stuff to go over in our 5 games. But not the best. These were not great. I really these big public tours, PU has not been showing up, and that's unfortunate and sad, and I don't like that for this tier. But this is not something that you can do a lot about. So the first Snake game that was played was Planet Kepi. You want to take this one, Kepi being your player?
I helped Kepi precisely 0 this entire week. Actually, the most help I gave Kepi was not giving any advice whatsoever. This is purely because I looked at the team and thought the team looked fine for the meta, so I decided not to be an extra cook in the kitchen, which can sometimes be a negligence or a disadvantage. So I just let Kepi rock, and they brought something decent and ended up lucking the shit out of Telenet, so that helps.
Yeah, that is pretty much what happened. So this was the first game that maybe people will be looking at like, oh hey, Galarian Mime, it's pretty good. Because Telenet brought that, and it basically just ate Kepi's team alive for the reason I've been saying, which is like, Kling Klang's so good, you kind of want that, and then it's hard to fit a secondary ice resist because this meta is just a bit whack. So Kepi's ice resist with like the Kling Klang and the Golduck, and Nasty Plot Galarian Mime went in. And if Telenet didn't miss the +2 Focus Blast to just Oko Kepi's Kling Klang, that would have just been game right there.
I don't think it would have been game. I think Kepi had something in the back, if I don't recall. But yeah, it
Well,
would have
it
been
was
a
Scarf on
close game.
Pheasant, I think. I just don't think Kepi had
Yeah.
any chance to win after that.
I think there's. I pretty put it. I think this has come down to like a matter of opinion thing, but yeah, I think Kepi still had a shot, at the very least. But I'd say yeah, it would have been a lot closer than if it
Well,
Focus
it would
Blast
have
didn't, for
required that
example. I don't
Mister
think.
that Mister Mime to go off with like the blunder policy stuff, and maybe, but we
Mhm.
saw how that only ended up cleaning this game in the end because Tlenet did a little bit of a weird throw at the end of this game. Like Tlenet should have won, I think, just off that focus blast. But even after that, Tlenet was not entirely out, and it wasn't really until the end of the game that Tlenet just had a very like a bit of a problematic throw where basically Kepi's Mr. Mime has revealed Hypnosis, Psyshock, and Mystical Fire, and Tlenet naturally goes, well, it's not going to be Dazzling Gleam. And hard switches Morpeko into that Mr. Mime and just gets OHKO'd by Dazzling Gleam because Kepi apparently had a team builder mistake and it was supposed to be Nasty Plot, and instead it had Gleam, which, like, I don't know why it would be Gleam. And Tlenet's Morpeko just dies, which you need to kill the Mime there. So that was like still a bit of a throw on that end. Because like he switched out type null, which was asleep at 5%, and there was really no need to do that. Like straight up, like you could have just gone to the Morpeko afterwards and won the game. I'm pretty sure that was Banded Morpeko.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that focus blast really that was really the thing there.
Yeah.
As far as tournament debuts, I don't really think Kepi made any major misplays. They just had a problem team there, which I get because this meta is hard. I think Tlenet had more interesting stuff and probably a better team, but definitely had a bit of a throw. So this is nothing too big. I'm still looking forward to see what both of them have, but not the strongest game here.
Yeah. This looks like a very main game where nobody really shone in the playing department. Teams were sort of flawed. Um, yeah, but I maintain that there's a lot of, I guess, problems in the meta where it's very easy to badly prepare for a match. So either way, I wouldn't blame either player for having substandard teams. It's not something that you can really say, oh, this
Yeah,
guy had a bad team, therefore he didn't prepare well. Like,
yeah,
no, these people obviously prepared well. It's just a part of the meta now where it's just like, I guess you have to just deal with the circumstances as they come.
mm-hmm. And on the flip side, I think Rosie Bear in our next game brought a team that I don't like. I mentioned before, I think this team has some weird major flaws, but sometimes you just run into a really good matchup with it anyway. Um,
Mm.
which I think the matchup is a little bit overblown. I talked to Soulgazer about it. He admitted like he just did not play this game nearly as well as he should have, um, which is kind of Soulgazer's thing. So I helped him prep this team and get more into the meta. And this is like just kind of a pretty basic offensive-ish balance thing that I really don't have major problems with Soulgazer's team. I think if anything, it ended up very vanilla. But I was like, yeah, Soulgazer can just outplay Rosie Bear. I think that's sort of his thing. That's not even a knock on Rosie from like open stuff. Soulgazer's just Soulgazer. Um, but this was not a very well played game, and I think it made the matchup look even worse than it was because, especially turn one, he tricks away his scarf onto Tangela, which he did not need to trick the Tangela at all. Tangela was not a problem here, and without the scarf, he had no way to reliably revenge kill Rosie Bear's Galarian Rapidash, and because of that, he decided to never try to hit Specs Focus Blast with Golduck versus the Lapras a Lapras switch in. So Golduck like literally did zero this game. It didn't come out till like the last turn or whatever. Um,
And then got critted.
yeah, and that whole sequence of events I think made the matchup look a bit worse than it was. It wasn't unplayable, but I don't think Soulgazer really played this right. Whereas Rosie Bear, like I said, I don't love their team, but they definitely had a solid matchup with running it like Lapras and the Fat Flareon and the Tangela is all like pretty annoying for Soulgazer's team, and I think Rosie Bear played it pretty much correctly all around. Like they
Yeah,
didn't fuck this one up.
yeah. Something I've been impressed with how Rosie's played in PU. To give their credit is that despite having less than fantastic team, they've played pretty well, pretty consistently throughout. I feel like that's an underrated feature in a player where they can play the same way and deliver wins the same way just consistently. I mean, Soulgaze has been doing it for years. Ted
I
before that
would
was
say
doing it
that,
for years.
except their loss to Dominatio Game 1 of PU Open Finals is one of the only games we have of Rosie Bear, and that was a real major throw. But other than that, for the most part, yeah, I think like the other two games that they lost in Open was mostly them being let down twice by just horrendous matchups. Like it doesn't really matter how well you play; you're just gonna get fucked up by that Leafeon. And this was
Yeah,
like,
and this team, I think this team is a bit better. It feels more like a tour player's interpretation on PU rather than a PU like helping Rosie build. Because you got loads of heavy duty boots here. You have three boots users, a regen user, Stunfisk, which is good versus rocks, and I assume Scarf Rapidash. But
no, it
yeah,
was.
it's
I'm pretty sure we saw it was SD, and it's just a really slow team because all Rosie's teams are slow.
no, it didn't reveal SD. It just play rough 3 times.
Oh, okay. It might be Scarf then, which I don't think solves speed issue, or I think it does help to solve the speed issues, but I wouldn't have assumed.
Yeah, honestly, I was actually scared the last turn before Rosie crit that the Golduck was going to be some rain dance stuff with Focus Blast, and then when SG put the mishmash of letters and stuff at the end, I thought, oh my god, it was rain dance and Focus Blast, and he was about to win. But yeah,
No,
you said it was
no.
Specs.
Yeah, it was a Specs
Yeah, so
Golduck. We just wanted to like do basic Specs Golduck, which works versus most things because Lapras is pretty uncommon. But yeah, looking back over this game, I think too much was put on the matchup necessarily.
yeah,
Soulgazer
SG could have
double
definitely done
synthesis.
something.
Soulgazer goes for a second synthesis on Rosie's Tangela on turn 25 and gets Sludge Bomb poisoned, and that synthesis did literally nothing. Um,
Yeah,
like the play literally did zero. And that Sludge Bomb poison hurt him a lot. And also losing Galarian Rapidash to the Flareon here did not help. I think he might have assumed it was a special Flareon or something, or Flareon wouldn't do that much damage. But the Flareon was toxic and had to go hard for Flare Blitz. And had Soulgazer gone hard into the Rocky Helmet Sandslash, Calm Mind Rapidash would have done a lot of work versus Rosie's remaining Mons. If you look at like turn 14, what Rapidash could have done after that, after a Calm Mind, it could have put in a lot of work, but instead he stays. He tries the Morning Sun on the Flareon. Think it's not going to do much damage. But Flareon does
I'll agree with you.
68 and gets the burn. At that point, you have to just trade Rapidash. Yeah, that's really huge.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
agree with you on the matchup stuff because SG has more than one win path here. He can very easily just abuse Kling Clang, force Stunfisk into resting, and then just abuse Stunfisk like on its rest turns with Specs Golduck the entire time. And it would be constant 50-50s between Hydro and Focus and stuff. You tend to favor SG in making those 50-50 decisions. Plus, you have stuff like Unpheasant. Unpheasant, again, as soon as Stunfisk has to start resting and stuff, that becomes an issue. Even the Calm Mind Rapidash. The Calm Mind Rapidash puts in a shit ton of work just at preview.
yeah.
It's just a
It really
question of
does. I think.
it's just a question of abusing Flareon, to be honest.
Yeah, I think between that turn and turn 18, which is the turn by which the Stunfisk and the Unpheasant have both been toxic, you can really see where Soulgazer I think had a lot more and just like did not play his way into a win here that I think he definitely could have had.
Yeah.
Like it also really I think reinforces my issue with Rosie Bear's team where like all your stuff is toxic or abusable at this point. You could be in big trouble.
Yeah.
But that really didn't end up happening. So I think we can move on. That's about all we had for this.
Yeah, go for it.
TJ versus Obi. They both bring incredibly similar teams based around the same sort of balance that like this is kind of what like balanced dish stuff looks like because it's so hard to make work in this meta with all these threats. And both of them are pretty weak to each other's. No, I'm sorry. TJ's pretty weak to Obi's Galarian Mime. This is the second game where that really pops out and shows. Um, TJ has some of his own threats, but ultimately, I think they both have very safe balances. And just conceptually, I'm not sure if this is where TJ ought to have gone. Because if you're playing Obi, this is what I would expect someone like Obi to bring, who's like just getting into this tier, and this is like a pretty safe, basic, easy balance to come up with. I feel like TJ could have gone a lot spicier, tried to mix it up, use stuff that Obi might not like expect, not being as familiar with the tier. Um, I think you could have seen a lot more from TJ.
So
I think this is a very very safe pick. This is like the Soul Gazer pick versus Rosie Bear. I'll bring a very basic team and just outplay you. Which I don't know. That's an interesting choice to me.
yeah. So I think, to be honest, I don't really mind TJ's team. I think it's fine.
I don't think the team is bad. I think the choice is interesting.
Yeah, conceptually, I disagree with you as well. I think if you feel like you have the leg up on the opponent, just bring something standard and force them into counter strategizing the meta. Like Obi is not going to know what he's doing with respect to PU as well as TJ is.
I don't think Obi's the bad. I don't think Obi's like no a bad player. I just don't think he would know like more interesting meta techs. But I don't think TJ walks into this game going like I'm that much better than Obi. I'm just gonna outplay him. Maybe though. I don't know. My impression of Obi is that he's pretty good, but maybe. Like that's also reading into his psychology in a way I did not intend to do.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is not what I would have expected from TJ, but I don't think the team is bad. We just end up with like a very similar mirror matchup here.
Yeah, Obi's team, on the other hand, I do think is bad. I think Obi's team is dreadful.
Wait,
it's
what?
Slightly different, but I think Obi's team is awful in comparison to TJ's.
Really? What's that horrendous about? Like, I think it has problems. Like your only water resist is Appleton. Your team is really gonna die to like a non-choice Golduck, even a choice Golduck, things like that. Like defensive flaws. But to me, it's the kind of thing where like you've also got your own Heatmore Appleton, Galarian Mime, trying to just do enough damage in return to like basically work out and hope you don't have a shit matchup, which is kind of how these teams feel to me in general. Like TJ is sort of the same way. We're like, oh man, I hope I don't run into a Galarian Mime. That's sort of how some of these things work. So I don't hate Obi's team. It definitely has problems. Like I said, expert belt Golduck is just gonna button all over it. But I don't think it's the most unreasonable thing because you're packing your own threats and you mostly have room to outplay things in a way that certain bad teams that have like worse mons don't.
Fucking hell, mate. If you better be outplaying teams you better be putting some offensive pressure if that defensive core is what you call defensive. Jesus Christ, man.
It's not. It's much more of an offensive
struggles. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like it better be putting some pressure on if it's going to be that useless defensively because there's so many cores, and specifically I look at like the fighting type weakness, and I go like, okay, well, you're putting your entire fighting type load on Sandslash plus Appleton.
Yeah.
That to me instantly made me think TJ should win this game. Even with Throw, I feel like Throw could have 1v1 like 4 of the 6 things on Obi's team.
Yeah. It's far from like great. It really is. But I think in terms of like getting into the tier, bit of a matchup fishy balance, I don't hate it as much as I probably should for a team with no fighting resist because like it feels like it has the room. I don't know. It feels like it has just enough offensive pressure and pivot ability.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to hard disagree with you there. I think what ended up happening is that Obi discussed the team with whoever built it for his PU, or maybe he even thought about this himself and said, where's my fighting type resist? and then the person says, "Don't worry, fighting types aren't really that good," and he goes, "Yeah, bet," and then just brought the team anyway. That's kind of what it feels like to me.
Maybe. I'm not gonna discount the possibility, but either way, this game I think went a lot better for Obi than it necessarily should have. He was, for the most part, in the driver's seat offensively for a good portion of this game. The only like major, maybe not, is when he just sacks on Pheasant out of nowhere, just like gets immediately OHKO'd by Appleton. And even there, that was by far his most useless Pokemon. It also very much helped that he hit 4 Focus Blasts, all of which were really, really huge to hit, to kill TJ's Sandslash and Klinklang. So that was nice for him. Other fun features include Klinklang missing its first Toxic and still 1v1ing TJ's weakness policy activated Drifblim, because apparently his Drifblim had very little special attack investment and just couldn't do enough damage. That was fun.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the first replays that I really thought, Klinklang is stupid. Like, stupid. Like, not just broken, just stupid.
Yeah.
Just because I saw it, there's a throw there, there's a Sandslash there, there's another Klinklang right there, and there's also a Dreadnought, which has good Fizz Dev right there. And it still gets through the entire team. Like, it still even, like, puts pressure onto the point where Drifblim would have won, but it didn't win because...
Yeah, this was Spadef, not Shift Gear.
Yeah, but I still struggle a lot with how TJ played this game. Like, he still could have ended up winning if he hit the Focus Blast at the end. But I mean,
if TJ hit Focus Blast?
No, the Rock Blast. Sorry.
Yeah. So what happens is by turn 27. TJ has Scarf, Dreadnought, and a Sleeping Throw, and Obi has Heatmore out with a mostly full health Appleton and a practically dead Galarian Mr. Mime in the back. This is something we talked about for a little bit while we were spectating it live. It's actually hard to tell who wins here. If TJ, say, liquidates Heatmore, sacks Throw to the Appleton coming in, then comes back in and head smashes twice with Dreadnought, that's a roll on Appleton, but a favorable roll, plus just needing to hit 2 head smashes. If he's got Scarf Ice Fang, even better. Strongjaw Ice Fang, I think, is a little bit underrated on Dreadnought. Just Earthquake is kind of annoying to lock yourself into. That could have done it. Even Rock Blast here potentially could have come out with a win, because you've still got that full health Throw, which shouldn't beat the Appleton, but it might be able to chip it enough.
Yeah.
And none of that matters, because he gets a 2-hit Rock Blast, and even on the 2 hits for Heatmore to live on 1%, and it stops at 2 hits. And Dreadnought just dies to Giga Drain and Obi wins. And we'll never really know what would have happened. I could not say who was favored, but if TJ was just like Scarf with Head Smash in the last, that's pretty good odds for him to win, like regardless of anything else.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think it's unfortunate that TJ had to lose in this way, but I mean, I think he should have played. Personally, I thought he should have played the Throw a little bit better rather than let it take a Psychic from Mr. Mime early on. I assume he did that as like a mid ground, just not risk any Focus Blast Scarf shenanigans. I just think that if he'd done that a bit more eloquently, he could have won this game with a lot more margin for error.
Yeah, he switched the Throw into the Mr. Mime. I get why you wouldn't want to do Scarf Dreadnought when there's an Appleton in the back, but you could have potentially gone Klinklang and hard gear grinded at least. But yeah, that is the problem with TJ's team. It's fucking slow. You've got Scarf Dreadnought, and then your fastest mon is either the Drifblim or the Klinklang. That's a problem. But this meta is hard. I get it. Really, like, all around, I kind of wanted to see better teams. My favorite team we've seen so far is still the Soul Gazer team that I worked on. I'm fucking biased there, and after that, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll give the coolest team to Rosie, because at least it looks different, man. Like,
it definitely looks different. I don't think it works, but it is very different from everything else we saw. So there's definitely props for that.
Yeah.
I think Obi
This
played.
game,
I think Obi played this game pretty fine for the
fine.
most part.
Yeah, fine. He
There,
did fine. Like,
there weren't
like
any big
he
fuck
didn't.
ups. There were some like simple predictions and stuff. Like overall, yeah, he did. He did fine. I'd want to see a better team, but I don't think he. You know, this was you could have had a much worse debut.
Yeah,
Uh,
100% agree.
yeah. Next we have Kink versus IFO because Katut had to get subbed out. Um, Kink, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, both both teams just look weird. Like
Both teams look
Kink's team looks
weird,
like it was from Alpha,
but I
and
completely
AFO's team doesn't have a ground resist.
IFO's team is whack, but I think I 100% believe that this is what Katut prepped and this is what Katut was going to bring. I thoroughly,
Yeah.
Without knowing that for sure, I think that's thoroughly the case with this just like a bit of a weird Katut thing. Um, Again, like has to forego certain things. Doesn't really have a ground resist. You know, so, some other a lowland Doug is going to be a problem. Certain grasses, not the most fun. You know, but overall, I think it mostly works. I'm sorry, did I say grasses? I meant water types. Certain water types not super fun because Rose is just like a bit of an abusable mom. Things like that. And like you said, yeah, Kink's team looks really old and makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, I look at Manetric, Golduck, Dusknoir, and I'm just like, is this?
What
Are we playing like Alpha?
what the fuck is this team? I don't I do not really know what's going on.
Yeah.
They have a bit of a Kling Clang war, which Kink wins, but then dies to Ifo's Rocky Helmet Sandslash anyway. And then after that, the game just kind of ends without much fuss. Like they kind of just go back and forth killing things, and eventually Ifo wins, and that there's not really much of anything else to this game.
Yeah, I mean, this game's super bland because there's not really much to dissect in terms of plays because they just sort of hit each other with attacks and then Kink dies.
Yeah, Ifo like didn't ever fuck up. He just hit the basic buttons, and I don't know what Kink could have done. The one redemption here would have been Smash Crustle from Kink, which after that Sandslash very early went very low. Smash Crustle could have blown immediately through the steam. It outspeeds Scarf
Yeah,
Dreadnought.
if it was
It kills everything.
if it was like Rock Smash, it would have been sick. It would have been a super nice position.
Yeah,
If it was a Rock Smash.
even without smashing, at the point that Ifo's team was pretty weakened, like after the Kling Clang War, right? So turn 16, but that's still pretty early game because there was a whole Kling Clang War. If Crustle just weak armors, it wins as long as it hits stone edges. Just weak armor, it will kill everything. Everything will die to it.
Yeah,
And it did not.
Yeah, what do you mean going hard on Rapidash?
Yeah, if you like hardened,
Like,
if you hardened Rapidash, but nothing happened. He vaulted Crustle into Heatmore, which is already revealed special Heatmore, and uses Crustle to trade with it. And Crustle dies. And that would have been like the one potential saving thing for Kink's weird team, and it did absolutely nothing.
I think he had to have been playing for Unpheasant late game, surely.
But it was
Even then,
was it Scarf on Pheasant?
No, but he had to be.
No, it was
at least
non-Scarf on
because-
Pheasant. You can't play for that late
Yeah.
game when Ifo has Galarian Rapidash and Dreadnought for the like whole entire late game. That's not a play.
Yeah, well,
Crustle had
yeah,
to be the
that's-
win con. I don't know what set it was, so it's really hard to say what it could have. But like, it should not have traded with that Heatmore. What? Why? You're switching
Yeah,
into
I
heat.
agree
You're
with
switching
that.
into a Heatmore at 37%. You can either go
Was
to
it
you can either go to your
heavy UC boot sturdy?
you can either go to your Crustle and trade and not have a Crustle, or you can just go to Unpheasant and hit Brave Bird. And yes, it lets Dreadnought right back in, but
Yeah,
Crustle's your win con.
throw,
That's the play you
Jesus.
have. That's the play you have to make, unless this Crustle is like
Wait,
sturdy
this,
non-smash or something. Otherwise, Crustle was the only possible win con here.
yeah, so this had to have been like Spikes, Stealth Rock, and then 2 attacks or something for it to not win. Honestly,
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was a
Yeah.
massive throw.
If
Which
it
is
was
probably why he
that,
was
then
playing
it
for
wasn't a
Unpleasant.
huge throw, but your team still sucked. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really know what he was going for. At least with like the Rosie and the Obi teams and other teams that aren't great. I get what they're going for, but I don't know what Kink's plan here is, especially like this Crustle. It never even set hazards. It's this hazard setter. Versus a team like IFO's, I think you'd want like an early game spike or something. But
Mhm.
this offensive core never came together. Part of that might have just been like Golduck getting O code turn one by Scarf Head Smash. Scarf for Expert Belt
He's
Golduck
still
could have been, or Specs for
even.
Expert Belt Golduck could have been okay. Like despite Roselia, that's something you can pivot on and abuse with your Clink Clang and your on Pheasant. Nothing came out of this. I don't know.
Yo, listen to me, right?
Yeah.
If his Crustle had no, so we agree it's Scarf Dreadnought, right?
Yeah.
If
It is.
Kink goes for Stealth Rock or Spike on turn 20 when the Heatmore kills it, shouldn't Unpheasant just win at that point?
Rapidash is still live.
Yeah, but
Ivo won't sack Rapidash. He should not.
Rapidash,
He won't win, right? So he'll
if
spike. Heatmore will get a kill, and then Kink either can revenge kill with Manectric, at which point Roselia gets the Sludge Bomb, and you've still got a sack in the back for when Unpheasant forces it out, and then you go Rapidash. Or you kill it with Manectric, or you kill it with Unpheasant, and Rapidash comes out immediately. No, Kink didn't win if he spiked or rocked. No.
I think there were odds there.
There were no odds. There were no odds. You spike or rock. You have to revenge kill Heatmore with something. Ifo has the switch advantage and he wins. There's nothing to do. You have to dodge play rough at that point.
Interesting.
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I have no idea. To be honest, I have no idea what the Crustle set was. I'm just trying to go through my head, see what the set could have done and why he choked. But yeah, I have no idea what's going on.
Last game was Ziri versus Ham X5. This was my favorite game, I think, overall, and that's not saying a ton, I guess. They both have some.
This was, yeah. Can I just say quickly on this game? Like this game is by far the best, but also by far the worst because Scarf Mark Punch Hitmonchan should be illegal. I think that should push it outwards.
Someone was like, "Why do you hate this?" And I'm like, "Do you not see the problem with this? Is the thing you have to run to keep Clink Clang in check? Do you just not see how ugly that is in general? I hate needing to put priority on Scarfers. It's not fun." Yeah, they both have relatively fun teams. Ham's was made by so Ham is on Skipcan's team, but Skipcan was doing NU prep for Kushalos, and Ham's team was made by ZS. Yeah. I think Ham's team is pretty cool. It sort of falls into the same trap of like you can only prep for so much, and certain things are pretty, annoying, blah blah blah. But I think it mostly works. It has like offensive outs. Stunfisk, Tangela, Kling Clang is not like a bad fat core, and it's got a CB Morpeko or no, it was Life Orb. I don't remember. It was some kind of offense. It never got revealed, but ZS said after, which I think is cool. We need more Morpeko. The problem is he just did not play this team well, and he made it look really bad. I don't think this team is bad. But Ham made it look awful. Like, Morpeko literally never hit a move. Kling Clang could have been a massive threat to Ziri's team, and it did nothing. Mime could have been a massive threat to Ziri's team, and it did nothing. So, like, those three Mons could have done a lot, and they did nothing, and Ham's entire offense came from just Tangela, so it made the team look much worse than it was.
Yeah, I think Tangela was a pretty good matchup. I don't know if that was just Ham abusing the shit out of Tangela and just like refusing to use the rest of this Pokemon, or just how the team is structured. But I mean, for real, dude, like I felt like at preview, I thought Galarian Mr. Mime looks like a beastly threat. Like
it's the same as
especially if it had focus.
It's the same as with other teams. The ice resist is Kling Clang, so it's going to do some work. Ziri's team is still fun though. It's got some grass spam. Again, like you got certain weaknesses, but I think the things it compromises on, not so bad. You've got ways around them. I like this team. I think it's fun. There were some very weird plays this game overall.
This game was played weird, but it was fun.
This game was played very weird. It's hard to I'm watching this game live, and there are so many plays I just did not get it all. We do see Ham gets the mime out kind of early, and immediately tries to nasty plot to Oko the Clink Clank switch in, and gets forced out by Scarf Hitmonchan, which like he correctly guesses is going to beat the mime. So that's something. But after that info, you would have hoped mime did more, and instead it didn't. And Ham was like multiple doubling opportunities and stuff, and sort of keeps getting them wrong. And Ziri, I think, consistently outplays Ham here. Ham gets Mime in on the Appleton, tries to spin, and Appleton just stays in and kills Mime. Things like that, where Ziri's really like
Yeah.
nailing Ham to the floor, um, like over and over to the point where Ziri's even predicting things that made no sense to me. Um, like Z, I don't
Okay, bro.
like. I mean, Ziri's predicting plays that I just don't even understand why Ham made them in the first place. Um, Ham keeps switching out his Tangela and not like sludge bombing the Appleton until it's very late, and Zeri like kept calling it. It was just very odd. I don't know, but the game sort of just takes a while. Zeri slowly chipping away at Ham's team and doing damage, and eventually lures the Tangela with a Mega Horn Sword Stance Galarian Rapidash, which has a further tech to it that I can't reveal, but could have done a lot of work versus Ham's team. It just like never ended up mattering really, and just overall, I think plays this pretty right.
Oh, interesting. So it's definitely poison berry resist Galarian Rapidash. Very cool to know.
That's my dog snoring. I don't know if it's audible. My dog has just started
Start what?
snoring.
Oh,
I don't know if it's audible.
was I
I
right?
feel like it's gonna be audible in the recording.
I couldn't hear it, so probably not. But either way, was it poison resist Galarian Rapidash?
no,
Poison
I'm
resist
not
berry?
gonna say. Um,
Okay. Well, it was definitely poison resist berry, so
but
we can
yeah,
just
like
chalk that off.
the mime, the cling clang, the morpeko, they all do absolutely nothing. So Ziri's not like super offensively challenged and basically just plays this game like really aggro and wins.
Yeah, I think Ziri ended up deserving the win just by virtue of how aggressively he played.
Mm.
Like he got the Appleton right, and he also got the Mega Horn lure right with the Galarian Rapidash. So definitely props to him. He did this. He did something cool in this game.
Yeah. So week 2 of Snake, we've got Tlenet Rosie. I don't know how to call this. Tlenet had a much rougher first game, but I still am like Rosie's teams need to step it up a little bit. It's gonna be a problem, but maybe. I think that, like they played this game a lot better than they've played like past open sets, so maybe they're getting more comfy. We'll see where they end up. Um, so yeah, I don't necessarily know how I would call that. I'd still probably favor Tlenet a bit, but
Give
momentum
me odds. Give me odds. I want a 55-45 or what are you saying?
momentum definitely matters. I'm not gonna do exact odds. I don't like
Okay, I'm
doing
gonna
I
do
don't like
exact
doing
odds.
odds.
I'm giving 52 to Rosie and 48 to Lennon.
That's
Very
fair.
biased.
It seems like a pretty even call. We've got Soul
Yeah.
Gazer TJ, both of them coming off like kind of rough losses that were not super characteristic of past performances, I guess. Um, so we'll see there. I especially won't call that because I'm still like helping Soul Gazer out to just.
Okay. I give 65 to SG and 35 to TJ.
Wow,
Just because
that's a big split.
yeah, I think TJ's been bringing a lot of the same stuff, and unless he varies it up, I'm not convinced he can vary it up, but he has to vary it up,
If
and
there's
otherwise SG will just be
if there's a
better,
time
I
to
think.
vary it up, it's the first week after a big tier shift that added some big players. Boof and
Uh,
Larantis and Lipard, pretty top tier stuff.
potentially, but I don't know if he can vary it up. That's what I want to see from TJ. I want to see him change it up, and I don't know if he's capable of that because of how his PPL went, where he was just sort of beating people up with the exact same team,
Mm.
and his entire team did that. To be fair, but yeah, generally speaking, I want to see him change it up. I put more of the emphasis on SG.
Mm. We've got Kepi Ziri. Obviously, like you gotta pull for your Kepi. But Ziri had a much stronger week 1, so that's sort out. That's the main thing to go off of here. One of them had a pretty good week
Right.
one.
Yeah.
The other one had a
Yeah.
more shaky one.
I'm gonna go and disagree with you there. I think Kepi 100 0-0.
We've got Obi versus Kink. You have to favor Obi here. I don't know what else.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
I don't know.
I go
Kink,
55. 55 OB, 45 Kink.
only 55, really. Okay,
Yeah.
you
I think
you hated
I have
Obi's
faith in
team.
Kink.
You hated Obi's team a lot.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, I hated Obi's team a lot.
Yeah. And no, it's not good. I'm just saying I don't hate it quite as much. It showed to me, despite the no fighting resist, a better idea of how to like make an offensively coherent team in this metagame than whatever Kink's thing was. That's
right.
Yeah. And finally,
it still didn't have a fighting resist though.
Yeah. Finally, you have Ham versus Katut. Katut got subbed out. We didn't see anything, but Ham didn't play so good. So I'm gonna say Katut probably a little bit favored there. A little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it. For odds exactly. I'm gonna put 52 Katut and 48 Ham.
That little, really?
Yeah, because
a big fan of
why would
ZS
Katut
builds.
want to sub out? Yeah, that I think also like he's gonna get extra help from Skipcan. Plus, I don't think Katut is that interested. I don't understand why he wouldn't just play the first week, even if he was a bit busy.
I mean,
I don't know the full story, obviously.
He
there was
was
an
like
activity situation.
Yeah, he missed the game. I don't think he didn't try to get subbed out. This was like they scheduled and he missed it.
Right. Yeah. So like that doesn't make much sense to me either. Like this is a big tournament, you have to turn up. So yeah, only a small advantage, but
Okay.
I still think he'll win.
Oh man, I thought this was going to be a short episode, but that first slate stuff just took us so long. So we can end this off with some gimmick corner. I'll start with not a gimmick, but just like the Boufflant set I posted in council minutes that I think is like the best thing I've seen Boufflant do so far is just fat SD3 attacks. Not even fast, just like max HP, summon Spadef as well with Swords Dance, Body Slam, Earthquake, Throat Chop. I think that's just much better than sub SD. It's not like obviously, yeah, you can get this thing statused, and that is no fun. And you can even consider Facade over Body Slam. It'll die to Toxic, it'll hate Wisp, but like, I think it's much better at abusing those balanced teams that have problems with it because they're not like they've got a non-foul play Stunfisk and maybe like Unpheasant and Kling Klang. And you're going to be able to trade for like 1 or 2 kills. I think a lot better than uninvested sub SD is because the sub still does not feel super reliable to get, to be honest. And forgoing sub and just throwing more into attack to just like be more devastating, chip that throw more. Like the team I was using it on, maybe I'll sack Boof just for throw chip. The throw will be left at 20. Like that's cool. That works for this team. Things like that. I think that's like just better from Boufflant.
Cool.
Than the sub SD stuff. But nothing too crazy. How about you?
So I have 2 sets. They have the very similar theme. So, first one is Luxray. We're going for a defensive Luxray this time. Volt switch, so you can pivot out on things, but also you have Rocky Helmet, so you can really abuse like gear grinding, clangs.
This is the Luxray I've seen, and I think this is definitely the best thing you can do. Like offensive is nothing. It's dumb. Don't do it. This set I think is pretty okay, to be honest.
Yeah. Toxic Protect Substitute are my fillers of choice. Although you can easily go Toxic Restalk, which
Toxic Protect Toxic Protect Substitute Volt with a helmet and no lefties.
Yep.
Okay, that's whack. That's not what I was. That's not. No. Oh no. That is not.
Yeah.
Oh.
This is
no.
This is the root. Trust me. This is the root because you can Toxic and Protect.
Once you show the
Volt Switch and then Substitute.
Once you show the set,
you have to not think about it.
That's not even going to beat. That's not even going to beat Kling Klang. Once you show the set and they know they can just gear grind up, shift gear up all the way. What? No, I've seen like
you wouldn't ever like substitute up versus a Kling Klang.
Like
You'd always
Volt
switch.
Volt Toxic, maybe Protect, but like fit a superpower on there to like nail boofs and stuff. Fit,
I think that's a bit of a play.
Sub no love.
Honestly, Restalk would honestly be the best other two
Even
moves,
that,
but protect
please.
substitute is fine.
What? No, I don't.
Trust me. You have to trust me here.
I would
So you have to think
rather.
about
I would
substitute.
rather. I would rather run like Magnet Rise. Fuck it.
I mean, Magnet Rise would be lit, but still, I mean, I would actually Quick Attack sounds like a fun set. Never mind. Okay, let's just move on. The other set is actually a fast Bouffalon, which isn't broken. Well, it shouldn't be broken, but it might be broken. It's like max speed Bouffalon with max HP, and then sub toxic protect Earthquake.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. I want to see more toxic stuff. I don't know how it's going to be. It's hard to figure out what the last attacking move is. I'm not sure if it should be Earthquake or like Throat Chop or.
Yeah, I go with Earthquake just because, in theory, you just hit the steel types. So you hit Klinklang, you hit Dougie, you hit the poison types that try and absorb it.
For sure.
And you just toxic it. You toxic everything else. So yeah, it sounds fun. And plus, Boof is thick as fuck.
Yeah,
so,
Boof
you can afford to run a bit
big
of speed.
fat. It's got 95, 95, 95 defenses, which you might notice is the same as Silvally, but it also gets leftovers.
Yo, it doesn't get talked about enough how broken Silvally were. You don't talk about that enough.
Yeah, it's crazy how PU is like 95 in all stats. Oh, that's busted. That's so crazy. Lipard is really good right now, and the only stat it has above 95 is its speed. Most of them aren't even close. And Lipard's good. Lipard's fucking good.
Yeah, you remember how much you relentlessly bullied me for saying nasty plot player of Lipard? I still remember that, by the way.
I didn't bully you. I was like, wait, this is not that bad. That damage is not that bad.
Yeah, and you were just laughing as it did 20 to a throw. Like, come on, dude. I'm now scarred for life.
Oh my god, you painted that whole thing as bullying. I swear it was with the best of intentions. I do it out of love.
I don't doubt that one bit.
Okay. I don't know how these are still an hour, man. Oh well.
I mean,
thanks for listening.
About Slate.
Yeah. It was a lot of stuff. Next week, Snake. Hopefully VR update. We'll see what else drops out of the tree. Thanks for tuning in. If you're still listening to like hour-long PU podcast right now, and see you next week.